So we've been exploring some Dungeon Master ideas for D&D, for Dungeons and Dragons. And I want to step back out from behind the DM screen, put myself in the place of a player, and I want to ask this question. Leveling up, experience points. I think we need to approach it from three perspectives. Now, the main perspective and what a lot of us focus on, and certainly this is important, you level up, your character gains more hit points, they gain more abilities, they might gain some spells if they're arcane, they're going to open up new avenues to adventure, maybe some new feats depending on what rule set you're playing with. You become more powerful. And this is kind of like hard power in that you are physically upgrading your character. You are physically gaining, based on the character class, based on the decision tree, stuff for your character sheet. Now, at the same time, we need to make sure our gear, and I'm going to use, for the sake of this vlog, this Tactica, this discussion, we're going to look at a fighter class, but you can apply this to any class. As you level up, you need to do your best to make sure your gear levels up at the same time. So if I'm a level 1 fighter, I've got a suit of chainmail, I've got a longsword, I've got a shield. That's some okay starting gear. I probably want a dagger too, or a short sword, just so I have that backup weapon. That works at level 1. That works at level 2. Around level 3, I'd like to have whatever my primary weapon is, a longsword +1. Maybe a magic shield +1, maybe a ring of protection +1. I'm getting some starting gear that not only boosts my damage output, but is going to help make things easier to hit or help bring down my armor class or raise my armor class, depending on the version of D&D that we're exploring. If I find myself to be level 5 and I still have the same +1 sword, the problem here now is that, or I should say the challenge is, as the DM ramps up the adventure, ramps up the challenge rating, that +1 sword, if we're looking at a fighter, is not going to be able to keep up with the damage output. At that point, I'd like a +2 sword, or +1 sword with maybe another attribute, shock, flame, sonic, whatever we're exploring. We need the gear to keep pace. Likewise, armor class, I can go full plate, I can go a shield, I can go a helmet, I can get my armor class up, I can get that number up there pretty good. But once we move to level 4, 5, or 6, the monsters that I'm going to be facing, the challenges, before they even roll the D20, before the DM rolls the D20, based on their attributes, they're going to get like a +5, +6, +7 to hit. So I need to have some sort of magical gear to boost my armor. So as I'm leveling up, my share of the treasure, and this could be gold pieces, direct gold pieces. It could be, hey, we found a +2 longsword. Give it to Fritz in the party because he's the fighter and he can trade some other gear. We kind of divide up the loot. I need to make sure that as I'm leveling up, as I'm gaining those hard attributes of hit points and abilities and modifiers and feats and spells, my gear is keeping pace. Are we doing that? Because it slowly creeps up on you. It slowly creeps up. Suddenly, if you find yourself level 5 and 6, where there's a definitive mark in the challenge ratings, a definitive switch, a change, a crossover, you're going to be outgunned. It's going to be challenging. The other piece to take your treasure resources. So number 2 and 3 here, gear and connections. That's based on gold. That's based on treasure. That's based on taking some of those gems and pieces of jewelry and other assets that you've gotten adventuring and converting them into this. Developing contacts. If I'm a fighter, again, as an example, am I working for an adventurer's guild? Am I paying off the church? Am I spending some money if I'm a rogue to kind of join the thieves guild and maybe get some information going? Am I networking, literal D&D networking to develop relationships with NPCs? To pay off some informants, to go into the bar and buy everyone drinks, so this way they know my name and sing my deeds. So when I need some help, when I need an information lead, when we're in an adventure and I'm looking for new opportunities, I now have that groundwork laid down through a number of adventures. And I'm not saying you just completed an adventure, you just turned level 4, and you bought your gear and you've got, 1,000 gold pieces left. That doesn't mean take 1,000 gold pieces and spend it. I mean, you need to bank your cash and make sure that you have that to buy more gear. Take 50 gold pieces. Take 20 gold pieces. Work with the DM to develop those avenues, because that's going to be important later on when some of the challenges, D&D, like 5th edition D&D, the jumps are, and modified a little bit depending on the campaign and the play style of the DM, but the hard jumps are levels 1 to 4, then things jump, 5 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 16, 16 and higher. When you make that jump 8 to 12, now a lot of things that you're fighting, they're pretty powerful. They're really powerful, and even with the combined arms and abilities of a well-funded party, it's going to be challenging, and it should be, right? It should be. You might need some other help. You might need some other help in the realm. So having that connection built up, very, very important. So let's focus on the hit points. Let's focus on, rolling high when we level up and attributes and things we get. But let's also try to keep our gear in line. And let's definitely look for opportunities working with the DM to develop the contacts that we need.